The session next up is a track which is focusing on enterprise solutions for small and medium enterprises, and we have a very good panel of entrepreneurs and leaders who've got great insights on business and enterprise solutions. So I would like to invite the chair and moderator of this panel, Mr. Vengaswamy Ramaswamy, who's the global head at ION Tata Consultancy Services. Big round of applause for Swamy. Swamy is a Six Sigma master black belt, and he's got his own exponential ways of, bringing new ways to quality. He heads ION globally for TCS, which provides solutions for small and medium enterprises, and has been instrumental in setting up the unit and driving the domain solutions that's relevant to SMBs. So I'll give it over to Swamy to introduce and invite the other panelists. Thank you.
Tell me, in this set of audience, how many of you sell technology services? Raise of hand. Sell technology services. Okay. And how many of you buy technology services? Okay. So we have a good mix of both buyers of technology and sellers of technology. What we thought in TIE is it would be useful if we can set up a panel where you can get the views of from the sellers of technology as well as views from the buyers of technology itself. So let me introduce my panel and bring them onto the stage here. We have Aditya. Aditya is the co-founder of HMS Infotech, the makers of the product called Photologics. Aditya, can you please come onto the stage? And a big round of applause for Aditya. We also have Sunil. Sunil is the CEO of Wholesome Services South Asia. Sunil, welcome to the stage, please. And both are very interesting set of people. And I want to quickly tell you a couple of things about both Aditya and Sunil, which you won't find in the profile that was handed over to you. As we all know, as I said, he is the co-founder of HMS Infotech. But the most interesting thing that I found about him is he is a salsa championship holder. We are not going to ask him to do a salsa here for sure, but that's a very interesting thing that I found. And he also played table tennis at a state level. So we will see how he manages the balls that you are going to throw at him as part of this Q&A session as well. So that is Aditya for you. And Sunil and myself share one very interesting thing. Both of us run marathons. And I was checking with him whether he's running this January 20 marathon. He said yes. So we will hear some very interesting thoughts from a buyer perspective from Sunil. So to kickstart this, we have a topic called Reinventing Enterprise Solutions. The rate of change in which technology is moving, whatever we found yesterday is irrelevant today. So there is a very compelling need to reinvent every bit of technology as it comes along in the market. So let's hear from Aditya how he is reinventing enterprise solutions as part of his product Photologics, and there may be some very interesting lessons for all the buyers and sellers of technology in this audience. So let me give it over to Aditya for his views first.
Yeah, hello everybody, I am Aditya, I am CEO and co-founder of HMS Infotech, the makers of Photologics. I know this is the most difficult session to actually talk in. People are back from their lunch, they are as it is sleepy, so I have a tough job to make sure that you guys are awake. Yeah, so I would try to make this interactive to check on the awareness level and the how alert you guys are. So okay, so see, I come from the spoiled background of of studying in a very notorious college, always on the borderline. Then got into notorious world of Latino dancing and stuff like that, and now I'm in the notorious technology world of disrupting existing brands that exist in the market. And I thought that cloud is a perfect platform, medium through which you can actually disrupt existing brands. And that's where I'm going to emphasize on as to how you could look at cloud as an opportunity. So I call it raining opportunities, and how you should look at no limit market. So the world is your market. So let's first understand the background from where which I come. What is Hotelogics? Hotelogics is a very traditional hotel management system that people see. It is on the cloud for hotels which they use to operate their businesses. What it also gives them is the ability to sell the available room nights in the online marketplaces. So it's a very simple application from that point of view. But we've given it an enterprise feel to it, so that a group of properties can use and stuff like that. So and we typically cater the enterprise market outside of India using it. Ironically, when I used to interview people, the first when I started my career, if I would see a library management system or a hotel management system in their resume that they've done in the third year of engineering or as a project, I would reject that profile right away. And life has come a full circle where I'm doing the same. So, so explaining you the enterprise market, right? So, what type of what is the SME market looks like? So the target market characteristics in that I say we sell to the hospitality businesses that are small and mid-size, which would be typically 3-star and below. Individual properties, non-branded properties. The market is largely global, it is largely remote. The key thing over here to understand is that when you sell to an SME, you are always selling either to the main guy who's running that business, or you're selling it to the owner of the business, which means they are operational experts. It is highly competitive. Why I say highly competitive? It's a very I should say vague term to use. But when you sell into an SME, your competitor is the register that is in front of him. Your competitor is the Excel that he uses if he is slightly graduated. Your competitor is the mom and pop shop that exists around him. Your competitor are the regional products and then the global products. So you have a huge competitor bed to deal with when you are selling into an SME market. Whereas when you sell into let's say the Fortune 500s, right? You won't see the competitors would be known competitors. It would be the IBMs or the Wipros or the Accentures of the world who will try to sell into them. So the battlefield is unknown, absolutely unknown. You are trying to swim into unknown waters when you're dealing with the SME market. Suddenly somewhere some company will pop up. Oh, this is Sudarshan and Lal Infotech company that is giving us the solution. You've never heard of them in your entire life. So it's a very unknown battlefield that you're battling in. I write this typical term over here very close to B2C. It is slightly more graduated market than the consumer market. What you see in the enterprise market is, similar businesses, they slightly behave in a similar way. There is a hierarchy of people, there is an IT guy, there is a general manager, there is a VP, and so there are influencers, there are promoters, there are champions, and you try to map all those guys. But over here, there is a single guy who's evaluating you and who is going to be the decision maker. So it's slightly a B2C, closer to B2C market. And then, when you are looking at world as the market, you are selling into from underdeveloped nations to developed nations. And you have to change your track very quickly when you sell into from underdeveloped nations to developed nations. In developed nations, let's say if you're selling into New York, which is like a buzzing place, your pitch would be operational efficiency. But if you talk about operational efficiency in Nigeria, they'll laugh at you. So we just got our 50th country on board. From Finland, we got a hotel using us. So now we are 50 countries. So our system is being used today in 50 countries. We have resellers in almost 15 countries who use us. This is why I'm showing you this, so that I set the background from which I come. It's hardcore on-ground experience, so you can ask me any question around it. What I'm trying to say, right, that it's raining opportunities. Sometime back, if you were sitting and if I would go to my dad, right, that, you know, Dad, I want to launch a new cola, he would either disown me, that you go, it's something you gone totally demented in your mind, and this is something that we cannot fight the Coca-Cola or the Pepsis of the world. But today, when you're looking at cloud, when you're looking at technology, you can dream to counter Microsoft, you can dream to counter Amazon, you can dream to counter any damn brand that exists in the world today. So, diminishing lines between existing brand and new brand is what cloud gives you. It gives you complete global marketplace available to you, and you can penetrate from anywhere. Anywhere you see early adopters, you can penetrate into the market. The key over here is that you don't wait to build a Ferrari. You quickly make something which is a minimum acceptability criteria product or a service that you want to offer, and you launch it. You launch it, test the market as fast as you can, go to the market as fast as you can, and it will on-ground experience will give you the true opportunity where it lies. Well, how long will it take to sell? So when it comes to cloud, and especially if you superimpose the SaaS delivery model onto it, software as a service, your aim is to make sure that your cost of sales is limited. You sell in as much automated fashion as you can, which means your marketing has to be so strong that it eats up into your sales cycle, right? So typically, when we looked at selling, we looked at two long poles of sales, which is evaluation and negotiation. We try to attack both these long poles with giving them a very, very clean and very, very smooth evaluation experience, and we lose the client. But that is what you have to realize, that if you try to get into trying to get into making customized solution pricing for people and stuff like that, you will be losing that agility in the market, and from that perspective, India is a difficult market. Do's and don'ts. What went right for us? Hitting the market fast. If you have to see who are your early adopters, you have to find people who are looking for you. You can't do cold calling, you can't do bulldoze yourself into market, you can't do outbound marketing. You have to find people who are looking for systems like this, and that's where you'll get to know what is the need in the market. So good SEO is a very, very good way to get into the market, at least when it comes to global markets. Try and buy. So basically, when you look at early adopters, you try and map them. That what are these people like? They want to look, touch and feel the technology that they want to get into. So they would want to try it and see whether it suffices. Does it have the new thing that they are looking at? Does it solve the business problem that they are looking at? They are very hands-on people. And you will be surprised that how educated, how capable hoteliers are in the West, and now also in India. The whole new generation of hoteliers that are coming, they will evaluate you to know levels. And then we devised reseller models in the world. We devised reseller models trying to see how to sell through resellers, how to get the subscription model with the resellers going. And The most important thing that we thought was we have to invest in brand. Very few people realize the value of investing into the brand, but when you are selling into remote markets, the most important aspect that is required for you to sell into those markets is to gain the trust. And that's where a brand, very concrete positioning of the brand is very important. And that's what we learned. Again, as I said, we continuously worked on our sales cycle. What didn't go right? So whenever we gave a lot of long trial periods to people, 30 days trial, people would look at us, forget us, and we cut short the trial cycle and we started to get customers. That was the on-ground learning that we got. Hard selling. First we used to call them, we are much cheaper than the existing product. We used to hard sell. We quickly switched to consultative sales. We realized that to gain the trust, we have to give him a solution, not to sell. And so consultative sale was something that we iterated into very fast. Switch to processes, and then we stopped getting unpaid resellers. We asked resellers to give us a joining fee, and then we get serious resellers. Here I'll have a very simple thing to say, that we all heard T's of marketing. Now welcome to the T's. When you are selling into the enterprise market, in the SME market, all you need to have is to gain trust. So trust and be transparent, that is the key to selling into SME market. Few things that go with cloud, just do it, don't think much. जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. Be transparent. The world is flat, there is no end to what the marketplace looks like. मेरी पहुंच बहुत दूर तक है is what I say. And it's raining opportunities.
And there are some very good insights from someone who has successfully launched a product to 50 plus countries within a short period of time. There is something very interesting to learn for all of you. Let me quickly switch over to Sunil to hear his views on what are the things that as a seller one should keep in mind, particularly in the enterprise solution space, particularly when we talk about reinventing solutions through cloud-based technologies. Over to Sunil, please.
While we were just about to start, we debated as to should the buyer go first or should the seller go first. And I said it should be the seller. They jolly well should know what the buyer needs, right? So all those sellers who showed up their hands, you should know what the buyers need. And I'm not going to stand here and talk because I saw Aditya teetering on the edge. That's why I'm going to walk around here and talk. Aditya, you need to give me that. So if you look at my first slide, it talks about a lot of things. It's essentially a think model. About should I move to the cloud? How should I move? But it's basically changing the way. Yeah, it's basically changing the way of doing business, and business should look at itself. So my talk is more around how do corporates today handle this change and what should they keep in mind when looking at disruptive technology. So in my company, I work for Holcim, which essentially is, a lot of people may not know Holcim. It's a Swiss company. Essentially in India, they operate through ACC and Ambuja. So between the two companies, it's about $10 billion of revenue. So it's not a medium enterprise. So I come from a large company. And we've basically gone and changed the way that we are thinking. From, we had a service center which was more technology based. It's now more business and technology. And that's the fundamental shift that's happening within us as a company. So we said, let us first reinvent ourselves before we look outside and see what's the best for us. This most of you would have seen, but let me tell you, this is sexy stuff. Everyone talks about it, but not many people are kind of got their heads around what it means actually in life. Everyone talks about SaaS, PaaS, but when you peel the first layer of the onion, not many people understand what it actually means. So the first thing that most corporates are doing or should do is kind of a 3 to 5 year roadmap. Because if you allow people to do what they want to do, then it's programmed chaos. And as I was telling you, I listed down some questions that we challenged ourselves when we are kind of looking at a change in strategy. So what do we do at the back end? What do we do at the front end? Which cloud should you go to? A private, public, hybrid? There are all kinds available in the market. And how does the new environment change business? I mean, that's key, because IT would still change, technology, but it's fundamentally changing the way business also has to look at itself. It's not just about IT anymore. And I work with the board of both the companies, and I know more. I'm an IT guy. I work on strategy along with the business leaders. So it's a way of how IT has to reinvent itself and how business has to look at itself. We are looking at realigning the organizational setup to future requirements of cloud and how do we operate. And then there are some fundamental questions which need to get answered. Which service should you go to? Which provider should you go to? So I thought I would address this question, and kind of it also covers who will win the computing battle in India. And I did some kind of research, so all the views that are here are my own. And I will take you through on what my views are on a lot of companies and what do they have in India, what do they have to offer. So it's too early to decide who will win the battle. That's the key point that I'd like to make here. And while India is a great place, you have an end-to-end ecosystem in India, because you have a good market, you have good developer base, you have good ISV strength. But most of the companies that are operating in the space haven't still got the story right. And let me just share some thoughts that I have about what these companies are doing. So if you look at cloud, and to the audience it may be like preaching to the choir, but I still thought I'd give this thought around. It's more like you should view cloud as a meta platform. And if you don't get your arms around, as a seller, around the entire ecosystem, somewhere down the line you will falter. And so I drew some parallels of what Microsoft did with VB and .NET in the 90s, and then what Apple is doing now. So anyone in this space has to look at these kind of models to grow. And the bottom line, whoever figures out the right story about getting around the ecosystem will win this battle. So why should cloud vendors take India seriously? And I talked about we haven't hit saturation levels. We haven't percolated enough, whether it's in IT, cloud is still a long story away. India is a playground, as I said. You want a test bed, you want to set up a center, you want to have developers, you want to have ISVs. It's all here, and everything is in large numbers here. And the SME, which a lot of you possibly are representing here, is a good fertile place for this kind of technology. And I thought I'd just share my thoughts around this, and and I listed these companies in alphabetical order, not in any other sequence. So I just read out some key highlights that I think about these companies. So Amazon, I would say their current India story is weak. Their future potential is moderate. They don't have a good sales and marketing arm in India. They're kind of ramping it up. Google, a strong story. The future is high, but they need to evangelize on the developer community. They don't have enough partners around to, irrespective of whatever stories you may have, this is reality on ground. They don't have enough partners. IBM, it has a good story and a high potential, because they have a good ISV community and their developer community programs are pretty good. So for them to roll this out further is kind of easy, but they still haven't got enough traction in India. Microsoft, strong and medium, but they need to get their story. Salesforce.com, doing great. I mean, they have a good story, they are ramping up partners very fast, and they're kind of permeating all over, and that's a good story. They're going for the ecosystem. And as a customer, I use Salesforce. So, I mean, I use Salesforce, I use Google. So, I'm talking from experience for both the companies, in terms of how easy, difficult it is. And as a customer, I'm looking at how do I move to public clouds or how do I do hybrid clouds. So, all that is part of what we are trying to grapple with now. Oracle Sun, their story is strong, but the future potential is moderate. VMware is good. I mean, they had a good start because of the virtualization platform, and they have a very strong story. So, what are the challenges in adoption? Some of you may have seen all of this, but let me just go on the key ones. If I was to look at the make or break in any deal, it would be the first one, the service provider. Because if he's not reliable and if he's not there for the long run with you, you have an issue. And a lot of people will give you good stories about the solution, but you need to look at the service provider. Because he is still holding all your data with him. I mean, that is the big challenge that you have. Then the architecture and service type. The biggest issue today is while your data is residing in the cloud, as long as it is static or even moving within the cloud, it's not a problem. You could do enough security and encryption. The moment you're doing transactions, and even for a nanosecond, if your data is exposed, you have a challenge. So people who are trying to get transaction systems into the cloud, please put due diligent thought around that. So while the vendors will tell you a lot of things about, our security is better, we are much better than you to try and do it on your own, but you need to be very, very clear. And your risk management practice should actually look and deep dive into what the vendor is talking about. The other big challenge that generally companies face is on contract negotiation. This is the first time for a lot of companies. And if you aren't clear in terms of certain clauses about asset management and reward strategy, if you look at that, I mean, this is the biggest thing that keeps us or keeps me awake at night is reward strategy. What if the cloud vendor was to go down? How would I go back and work? I mean, we've tried to do kind of business continuity runs by sometimes switching off from the cloud and trying to see can we do it any other way. But this is a real life scenario that can come to haunt you if you haven't worked out the reward strategy and included that as part of the contract. And then the last one is everyone is in an uncertain future. So the vendor also doesn't know whether he'll be there 5 years from now. So you kind of have to have a real good partner, trust in it to be able to do this. And then this is when we set it up for our company and for our business, this is what we thought. We said we'd set up a think tank which will write history differently, a business and an IT perspective, so that we run faster than the rest of the company. Thank you very much.
Shows how people run. But that's an interesting set of feedback from a buyer perspective. I want to open up for questions, but before that, I have one very important observation to make when Sunil mentioned about the sellers are looking for integrated set of systems. That's a very big opportunity. If I take a view from a seller perspective, and Aditya, probably you can help us answer this question. Do you see the market today really ready for integrated systems?
Hi. Yeah. Well, it depends, right? Whether you're talking into, you're looking at matured markets, again, from underdeveloped to developed is what I'm talking about. You look at developed countries, yes, they are looking at integrated, complete solutions, but they are not looking at one-stop shop. They want to pick and choose what solutions they want to use to have one integrated, collaborated solution.
And that's the behavior that you see. And then, Sunil, do you see as a large buyer, do you look for integrated systems or do you look for a variety of systems that you can integrate yourself?
I mean, I would look at best of breed as long as they integrate. No, that's what I would look at.
So you look for best of breed, not really an integrated
As
system.
long as they integrate.
I think that's a very interesting observation. If you are a buyer, at things from a buyer perspective is best of breed products, but I think both of them mentioned about the ability of the service provider to be a long-term provider is a very important characteristic when you look for a best of breed products. At the same time, if you are a seller and if you are able to create a niche in a specific area, then you can deal with any level of competition, whether it is small or big, as long as the niche in which you are operating can compete very well in the market. I think that's very important from both buyer and seller perspective. I have the second question is towards the cloud, because both of you talked about cloud and the benefits of cloud, and cloud being, I was told that if you work on a cloud area or domain, and if you are a small and medium enterprise, you are in any one of the conference on any day. And that's the story today. But tell me, when you talked about cloud, there are a number of advantages that you talked about. One of the important things is the reach that you get from day one of setting up the business itself. But are you finding resistance in terms of security, in terms of data protection and all of those things? And particularly if you're going to reach the world from India perspective, what's your experience from a cloud perspective, Aditya?
See, to themselves, right? Let's talk about, when you're talking about cloud, let's talk about cloud ready markets who have adopted cloud and what is their perspective on it. So SMEs clearly understand the kind of security infrastructure that you can give to them as a cloud service. They cannot create that in-house. So it's like, keeping the money, white money in the bank versus at home, as simple as that.
And Sunil, as a buyer, what are the couple of cautions that you will give for this audience?
So, as Aditya said, if you're a small company, then possibly cloud vendors may give you better security than what you have. But if you're a large corporate, then you'd be really due diligent in vetting out a vendor and do proper risk management, risk analysis. A lot of these vendors don't allow you audits, and in the contract stage, you need to get that ironed out, because they would not want their systems to be open for audits by customers, and you have to actually negotiate that to be able to do some part of it, if not all.
There's an interesting thing I want to reiterate what a buyer, and if you are buying cloud-based services, it's very, very critical that you should have an ability to audit the provider when there is a need to do so. That's a very interesting thing. So let me open it up for audience. A couple of questions. Yeah, please go ahead. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello. This question is for Aditya. I am Sudesh Agrawal from Indore. I run a web development company. This question is for Aditya. I am Sudesh Agrawal from Indore. I run a web development company, and we have a lot of clients from US and UK, Canada. But I want to ask you a question. You have a product called GoToLogics. So how do you differentiate your application? Is it a web-based application or a cloud-based application? So what is that difference? How do you differentiate?
So essentially you are asking the differentiation when you are talking pure cloud-based application. Application is that it has to be a multi-tenant application, number one. So you should be able to create multiple businesses using that application on the same system. Whether that system uses multiple images of database and all at the background is completely different, but it has to be a multi-tenant application, number one. The second is that you should never need to deploy it in-house anywhere. So these are the two main differentiations that you should look at when you're looking at regular web-based application versus a cloud-based application.
So a web-based application can be a cloud-based application too? Is it a subset of cloud-based application?
Yes, a web-based application can be a subset of cloud. A lot of people today, they run cloud-based application services, but they are actually web-based applications.
Right.
And when you get down to the depth of the matter, you will understand that they work as ASPs, application service providers, rather than cloud-based applications.
Right. I see a lot of products, they just mention cloud just because it's a fad, right? So that's why I wanted to...
Sudesh, in summary to what and you want to provide applications on the cloud, keeping a multi-tenancy, and today multi is not just tenancy level, whether it is multilingual, whether it is multi-currency, based on the application is going to be one of the critical factors that you should keep in mind as you start thinking about taking this product to multiple customers in multiple countries. That's a summary. Yeah, please. Yeah, you can.
Thank you. मैं टाई का मेंबर हूँ और
थोड़ा माइक आगे कर।
हाँ जी
माइक थोड़ा इधर रखें।
अच्छा ठीक, धन्यवाद। मैं टाई का मेंबर हूँ और अभी ई कॉमर्स पोर्टल बनाने जा रहा हूँ खुद, और उसमें एक छोटी दिक्कत आ रही है मुझे कि ई कॉमर्स के रेडी सॉफ्टवेयर वगैरह मिलते हैं और उन लोग स्टोरेज वगैरह सब संभाल लेते हैं, मतलब हमको कुछ करना नहीं पड़ता है, खाली प्रोडक्ट डालो और नियम लिखो और अपना दुकान चालू कर दो करके। और दूसरी बात ये आती है कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज ए सर्विस, प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस, वो एक प्रकार की सर्विस है जहाँ पे डाटा स्टोरेज वगैरह किया जाता है। अभी बात समझ में मेरे ये नहीं आ रही है कि ये भी स्टोरेज संभाल रहा है, ये भी स्टोरेज संभाल रहा है। एक तो प्रोडक्ट और सर्विसेज की जो बिजनेस करना है ई कॉमर्स की, उसकी एक स्टोरेज रहेगी। उसके अलावा मुझे और भी कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन है जो मेरे को स्टोर करना है, मतलब दो तिजोरी चाहिए मुझे, एक तो ई कॉमर्स बिजनेस के लिए और एक इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए। तो लोग बोल रहे हैं कि आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज ए सर्विस ले लो। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज ए सर्विस में लेते तो बोलते हो तुम्हारा जो सर्विसेज है, जो कुछ क्या बोलते हैं, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सर्विस में कुछ बातें आती है, प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस में सब कुछ आता है, खाली एप्लीकेशन अपना रहता है। तो ये गोल में मेरे को थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आता, मैं निर्णय क्या लूँ करके।
जी हाँ, उसको कैसे हैंडल करने का है। बाकी तो आप जो ई कॉमर्स कर रहे हैं वो प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस के ऊपर ही बनाओगे, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज ए सर्विस के ऊपर नहीं बनाओगे, राइट?
नहीं, वो भी आप बताएंगे।
मैं बता
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाओगे, प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस में बनाओगे?
नहीं, प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस में बनाओगे तो जल्दी बनेगा, क्योंकि उसके अंदर रेडीमेड टूल्स में लेके बनाने के लिए
जी
जो आपका इंफॉर्मेशन वाली तिजोरी है, हाँ जी, उसको आप डायरेक्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के पास भी रखती है तो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं।
अपने को तो एक ही लेना ना सर,
तो फिर प्लेटफॉर्म एज ए सर्विस ले लें।
धन्यवाद सर।
Any other questions?
Channel is open to best of breed, and maybe there is a preference for best of breed. But worldwide, I guess we are seeing consolidation. If I take India on one side, we have the SAPs of the world, we have the Oracles of the world, and even what used to be best of breed / companies buying other companies and calling them best of breed products are now being integrated on 5-year, 10-year roadmaps. So eventually the world seems to be moving towards monolithic giant softwares. So in such a situation, what does the panel view the future of best of breed of maybe the dozens of companies here which could be best of breed?
Well, you want SAP. SAP doesn't do a lot of things good. It does some things very good, but it professes itself to be niche in every area, but it's not. So for example, in our case, we went with Salesforce because it did much more than what the CRM within SAP could do. And since most softwares today would integrate with each other, it doesn't matter, essentially, whether you want to do a monolithic, you lose out on a lot of functionalities and richness of the product if you try and do that monolithic structure. And that's why a lot of companies, bigger ones especially, would not want to just do one size fits all kind of a thing. It doesn't work that way.
So just a quick follow on, if one of the best of market, etc., what are the 2 or 3 things they should tell you which get your interest?
Can you just repeat that last part? What are 2 or 3 things?
Things that you would like to hear which would get your interest.
The second piece is on the integration. Because that would be key. Other than that, it doesn't matter. Whether it's within that monolithic block or it's outside.
See, I have a view on that, Swami.
Yeah.
What it is essentially saying is, you're best in breed unless and until it is interoperable.
Correct.
Right? It does not make sense because then you will be dependent on it.
Very, very important point. So there is nothing wrong in taking a best in breed as long as it is interoperable. Solutions which does not really work together with other solutions, and that's where you get into trouble. Yeah, one last question from the audience. Yeah.
The question is, how do you manage pricing? Because in a service like this, how do you decide pricing? How do you tackle that?
See, objectives. Right, so you have to mix and match both of them and see what your pricing would be, and then you put the competitors alongside, and that's how you decide the pricing. And you will put the competitors alongside who you would want to get branded against. So let me give you a very real case example. There is a product in India called Easy Cloud. Okay, and then that product is 3 times probably cheaper than ours. And there is a product called Room Key, which is out of Canada, which is 4 times as expensive as ours. We brand ourselves alongside Room Key, but we don't brand ourselves alongside Easy Cloud. So anyone who's evaluating Easy Cloud, we tell them that this is not going to be a price war. It has to be, you have to evaluate it. We call ourselves as a premium brand. So you have to position yourself appropriately. So you look at the competitor bit, you look at your short-term objective and long-term objective, you'll be able to get down to pricing.
Thanks, Asitya. Just a quick, and cloud seems to be one of the good options to reinvent enterprise solution. That's one thing. From a buyer's side, you have to be very careful whether if you go for selecting best of breed products, whether it is interoperable or not is going to be very, very critical. And also you need to make sure that the provider from whom you are buying can sustain his operations for long term. That's another important thing that we heard. From a seller side, I think again, looking at the cloud, reaching a much larger geography, cloud seems to be very, very good option. But having said that, you really need to make sure your products are multi-tenanted, your products are multilingual and other aspects in order to go and garner such large business opportunities. Thank you very much for the audience, for your patient listening. Hopefully from both buyer and seller perspective, you got some very interesting things to carry back for you. Thank you.